Alright, welcome everyone to another Wolves of Rome tutorial episode. Today here we'll be giving a run through of the Zenobia deck, one of my favorite OG decks that has recently seen a bit of a nerf. It used to have the highest win rates within our community, and it used to be one of the most feared decks. Shout out to Sammy. If anyone knows Sammy from the Wolves of Rome community, he's definitely been one of the most feared players with absolutely scary Zenobia decks. So here we'll go through an example of a very powerful Zenobia deck. Even though it has been nerfed, it still does stay quite competitive with a lot of the other decks that we have here in Wolves of Rome. And one of the neat things about these Roman decks, as well as any other commander that is not a neutral commander, is you get the option of using cards that are either within your empire or the neutral empire. So in this example, Zenobia is within the Roman Empire, so she can use her Roman cards, which are in gold, bordered in gold either in the deck editor section here on the left, as well as here on the deck list. As you can see, some have golden borders and some do not. The ones that are gray, actually, these are the neutral cards. So these are the cards that Cockatoo runs, for example, as well as cards that can be pretty much added into any other deck. So here we'll go talk about a little bit about Zenobia as a commander and what she does. So we'll take a quick look through her different phases within her promotion. Normally speaking, most commanders just have one promotion, but Zenobia is unique right now in the game where she's the only commander that has a third phase. So the first phase, you start off with the Zenobia. That's a 3-mana 1/2. Incredibly weak card, a card that oftentimes doesn't get played on turn 3 unless the player really needs a defending unit and has nothing else that they can do. So here, what this Zenobia card does is at the start of the game, it gives you 3 aristocrats, which means absolutely when you start a match, any time, you'll always see these 3 aristocrats already on your board. And that's what you'll notice when we jump into our match right after this, is there will be these 3 aristocrat cards. They will have the stats of 1 attack and 1 health. And these cards are pretty much as useless as it gets. They're not allowed to attack. They're not allowed to block any incoming attacks. They're not allowed to even get removed off the board by summoning more than 8 units on your board. So the only way to get rid of these units, which end up just taking up slots on your board, is to actually deal self-inflicted damage. So if you use cards like spells like Quick Strike, or you use interesting effects like the Battle-Worn Wolf, which I'll go into more detail, you can remove these cards off of your board, these 3 aristocrat cards, and once they're removed, then Zenobia is actually able to promote. So here it says no aristocrats are on the board is when she promotes, and she doesn't get much stronger here. So this really isn't about having a strong commander card, it's more about what that allows her to do. So when these aristocrats get cleared, they actually summon 3 Palmyran Slayers onto your board, and it happens instantly. So if you kill that last aristocrat at the very end of your turn, you'll see 3 Palmyran Slayers show up at the end of your turn. If at the start of your turn somehow you're able to remove it, then you get this 3 Palmyran Slayers at the start of your turn. Whenever these aristocrats are removed from play is when the Palmyran Slayers show up, and you'll see 3 of them for each aristocrat. And the next phase, you'll notice, in this second phase of Zenobia, her promotion is 6 Noble's Fortunes getting used throughout the game. Now, these Noble's Fortunes could have been used even before she promoted from her first phase to her second phase, meaning that pretty much all throughout the game, whenever you're playing your Zenobia deck, as long as you played 6 Noble's Fortune throughout the entirety of the game, you will get to promote into her final stage, which is Zenobia Fall of Rome. Now, the really cool thing about this final stage is it gives you a new win condition. Normally in Wolves of Rome, the only win condition that exists is you need to lower your opponent's health to 0 before you actually end up going to 0, meaning you just need to kill your opponent faster than they can kill you. But the unique thing here is Zenobia has this Exodia-like win condition that's unique just to Zenobia, and in order for her to actually accomplish that win condition, she needs to have more than 6 ally units, meaning 7 ally units, on her side of the field at the start of her round. So keep in mind, 8 is the maximum that you're allowed having on your board, so you need to have an almost full board at the start of your turn in order for you to be able to have this Exodia win condition. If at the end of your turn, towards the end of your turn, you had 7, your opponent killed one before the round ended, that wouldn't count. So it needs to be 7 at the start of your turn. So now that we've discussed Zenobia and what makes her unique and her win conditions, let's go over the deck list here. So we have these Battle-Worn Wolves. A little bit of a tongue twister, Battle-Worn Wolf. These units are able to deal damage to your own cards, so your own units that are in play. So if I play this Battle-Worn Wolf on turn 2, I'm able to, at the start of the next round, which is on turn 3, or 3 mana, I'm able to use this effect in order to deal damage to my aristocrat in order to clear them one at a time. We're running 2 copies of that. Again, Battle-Worn Wolf is a very big staple card. The next is Legion Smith, and here Legion Smith, what it does is it allows you, anytime you summon a soldier card afterwards, it gains this challenger keyword. And this challenger keyword, what it does is it allows you to be able to put your unit into attack, and it can drag the enemy's blocker. Meaning I don't need to just cast a general attack and then the opponent can decide what they want to block with. I get to actually select which unit I'm attacking, which is really, really nice. The next card, we're running 2 copies of that as well, by the way, Legion Smith. Very, very common card that gets attacked by Quick Strike and a lot of other spells to get rid of it because that challenger, granting soldier challengers can start getting overwhelming. The next is Arcanine Blast. Again, another very classic Roman card. Not only because Roman cards have regenerating cards in units, like the Evocatus here as well. When you deal damage to your own ally unit, usually you don't fully kill your unit, right? Unless it's an aristocrat. If it's an aristocrat, great. We'd love to kill that. You definitely can use Arcanine Blast on your aristocrat, but you also get to deal 4 damage to an enemy unit. And this 4 damage number is really important because in Wolves of Rome, there's a lot of spells that deal 3 damage, and they just barely on its own cannot kill off specific units that sometimes become very problematic, like the Cockatoo deck that has a Coronas, or the Lich deck that has the War Husk. So this 4 damage here is really special and nice because it's able to kill off an entire unit that's never taken damage, and that's very unique to Zenobia. Zenobia is the only one that has this 4 damage spell card. Sorry, I apologize. Zenobia, as well as other Roman cards, other Roman decks, as well as Decimus and Aurelius also can run the Arcanine Blast. So the next thing here is Quick Strike. These are just really great all-around average cards to have. They give you some room to play with different spells and counter spells. The reason why we're running 2 copies here is because Zenobia is a deck that operates very, very well by being able to play counter spell cards. So here, that's the reason why we're running 2 copies. Adrenaline Rush, another common staple card. I would call this a very basic staple card that's almost run in just about every deck we see. And this Adrenaline Rush is really nice. It gives temporarily, until the end of the round, it gives your unit a buff. And what that means is during combat, if your unit would have died without being buffed, you can buff it up and it'll survive till the end of the round. And also it'll give your unit additional attack if it didn't have enough to kill the unit that it was either attacking or that was blocking it. So this is a really neat card to just be able to run. We're only running 1 copy here just as a tech card. Here we have 2 Evocatus cards. Evocatus, again, we're now getting to the 4 mana point. And Evocatus is just an all-around good Roman card to run. It has Regenerate. Zenobia has cards that deal damage to themselves, like the Battle-Worn Wolf, as well as Arcanine Blast. It's nice to have a target for that won't kill off your units. So what I mean by that is once your aristocrats are all dead, you'll have 3 Palmyran Slayers on your board, and you might drop other cards, but you don't want to deal damage, for example, to a Legion Smith if you're using Arcanine Blast, and that's the reason why it's nice to have targets that will naturally regenerate on their own. So that Evocatus is one of them. Praetorians, this is another really, really strong Roman card. The reason why is because it's the only one with this first strike keyword, and also on top of it, it gives you a Noble's Fortune at the end of you killing a unit. And this gets shuffled into your deck, so it's not necessarily going to show up on your next draw, but it gets shuffled into your deck. And this is really nice because if we remember and recall, Zenobia's 2nd promotion needs 6 Noble's Fortunes in order for her to be able to promote into her final phase. And the other small keyword here that I should have mentioned is that Palmyran Slayers, as you might notice right here, it says place a Noble's Fortune randomly in your deck when you die. So that's another important way that Zenobia collects these Noble's Fortunes. She gets 3 from her 3 Palmyran Slayers that will die, and then she can get more through Praetorians, as well as you can run some other cards as well, such as the Avarice card, which also puts a Noble's Fortune into the deck. So keep in mind they're put in the deck, but they need to be used, they need to be cast in order for them to count towards that promotion tally. Next card we have here is Battle Ruins. This is pretty much a slow spell card that buffs all of your ally units. It deals 1 damage, but it buffs by 1 health, meaning it, technically speaking, the health doesn't change at all, but it does grant +2 attack to all of your units. So that's a really neat spell card here. And also additionally, let's say you had a hard time clearing off the 1/1 aristocrats, you can use Battle Ruins in order to clear those units off your board, and then you'll get your Palmyran Slayers as well. So Harpoon Throw, this is again, a very classic neutral card that gets used as a removal card. Very similar to Obliterate, except Obliterate doesn't have any counterplay because there's no way for one to cast a counter spell here in order to keep this unit alive. But Harpoon Throw is very interesting because if you read the description here, it says kill any unit with 6 or more health, which means the unit has to have 6 health. If it drops below 6 health during this spell cast phase, then this card actually would fizzle out. So let's say hypothetically I use Harpoon Throw on a unit like the Architect. It has 4 attack and 7 health, but if I used a Arcanine Blast onto my unit, it would lower the health by 2, because Arcanine Blast deals damage to my ally unit. It would become 5 health. And in that scenario, this Harpoon Throw, even though it was targeted towards Architect, if I cast a quick Arcanine Blast right afterwards, it would no longer be able to kill my Architect card here. So I hope that makes sense. I know it might sound a little bit confusing, but we might see this action in game and it'll be much easier to understand what's going on. The next is Call of the Equids, and what Call of the Equids does is it summons 3 Equid Knight cards, and these are these 3 cards right here at the top. And these Equid Knights, the benefit of them is it can become a little bit of an aggro play or a defensive play. Let's say, for example, your opponent is rushing you really hard with a lot of cards, like a Cockatoo deck. By casting Call of the Equids, you get 3 of these Equid Knights that you can block 3 attackers with, versus just playing 1 card to block damage. So that could be a really helpful tactic in helping you slow down your opponent's aggression, as well as also if you do get to attack and you have multiple soldier cards in play, these Equid Knights can become incredibly strong. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, you had a full board, and all of the other cards on your board is a soldier card. That means 7 soldier cards buffing this card by +1. So this card would actually become an 8 attack, 1 health. Meaning, yes, of course, you could block it with anything to kill this card, but this card also will have a lot of attack. Now, almost pair that with a Legion Smith, and it also has Challenger. Now it becomes really scary. Again, probably will be a lot easier to understand how these kind of combos work when I play through the deck in person. Let's run through the rest of the cards. We have a few more here to go through. Skull Throw, a very classic card. This will be a lot easier to explain in-game as well, but it operates very, very similar to another card here that we're not running called Arena Duel. Here we go. And what it does is it allows you to select an ally that attacks another card. So it almost acts like a challenger card because you get to select who you're attacking. But because it's a spell card, you're able to do this at any point. You can do it within combat towards a different unit that you want to attack. You can do it outside of combat. You can do it on the defending turn. You can do it after you've already finished the combat round through your attack. This spell can get cast at any point because it is a fast spell. And the way it works is if you attack with your unit and kill off that enemy unit, the enemy unit does need to die. In that case, it creates a secondary effect here where you can deal 4 damage to anything. You can deal it to your opponent's legend health, you can do it to an enemy unit, you can do it to your own unit, you can deal 4 damage to pretty much anything. Obliterate, we've already discussed this, it's a removal card. It's about as strong of a removal card it gets. It's a fast spell. On top of it, it has this obliterate keyword, meaning that anytime you use this against Lich decks, for example, that have a dying effect, these dying effects won't trigger because the way Obliterate works is it removes the card from play rather than destroying or killing the card. The next is Sea Hunter Drake. Again, that challenger keyword is one you'll see here. It's a 7 mana 6/6, and this card is able to, when it attacks, select whichever unit is going to block it. So it's a really nice card to have as a tech card here in this Zenobia deck. The next is Rome's Assassin. You'll notice here, there's something that sounds familiar. Yes, it is a regenerate card, and it's quite low on stats for a 7 mana, but its effect is quite neat, where on play, it pretty much does the exact same thing that an Arcanine Blast does. It deals 2 damage to an ally unit and deals 4 damage to an enemy unit. We're running 1 copy of that one. The next is Lemur Spirit, a great all-around neutral card here, allows you to be able to really build up some pace in the late game. It is an easy target for Harpoon Throw and Obliterates as well, but this card is really nice in the fact that if it's not dealt with, it gains tremendous value. At the end of every round, it summons a Lemur, and these Lemurs, though they're only 1/1, these Lemurs actually buff any other Lemur cards. So this Lemur Spirit would also get buffed by that Lemur, and it keeps summoning a Lemur at the end of every round. So it's a nice way to get more units on your board as well, to use your defense or to buff your other Lemur cards. The Architect, this is a classic board wipe card again. Almost all Roman decks run this. This deals 2 damage to everything. It means to your opponent's legend, to your board and your units, and your enemy's units. It deals 2 damage to absolutely everything. Hopefully the benefit here is that Roman cards usually have Regenerate, so even if you deal damage to your own units, hopefully you get to heal up as well. Running quite a lot of health, so this card can become quite a high value if it's able to stay alive as well. The next card here is Legatus, and Legatus is probably one of the strongest cards that Zenobia and all Roman decks will run. If you can keep this Legatus on your board for a long time, you'll get incredibly strong value as long as you have other units to pair it with. So here, you really do want to try to keep your Legatus alive. It's a very common target for Obliterates and Harpoon Throws. It's good to be able to save certain self-inflicting damage for that Legatus in case it does become the target of a Harpoon Throw. But yeah, the Legatus, the way it works is not only does it buff all of your units, it also has Regenerate. So it doesn't only buff your allied unit, it also buffs itself as well. So here it says give all allied units, including yourself, +2/+2. So this unit will become a 6/6 the moment it's in play, and all your other units will gain a buff of 2/2 while this card is alive. So we're running 2 copies. And then the final 2 cards here is going to be the Black Swordsmith, and it deals 3 damage to every single unit on the enemy side. Keep in mind here, it's a little bit different than Architect, because it is dealing 3 damage only to enemy units. A very, very strong late game swing card. Let's say your opponent has flooded their board with units that are maybe 3 health or maybe slightly more, but you can still deal with them in combat or using other spell cards. This Black Swordsman is really, really good, and it's turned the tides of many matches, and that's the reason why you'll see this as a staple, as a board wipe card for many, many different decks in Wolves of Rome. So that's the deck. Let's run into a match, and let's see how this deck plays. Okay, so here we have a match ready, and we will jump right into it. So I'm just going to hit spacebar to deactivate this debug console, and we will take a look at our mulligan, as well as first taking a look at who we're up against. So we're up against a Decimus deck. Okay, so this is going to be a Roman deck, and the way that Decimus usually likes to play is by really trying to take advantage of the challenger cards. I think here, I don't have to think about that too much here. Really, I maybe want to think about, does he have early cards I might want to get rid of with a Quick Strike? Legion Smith might be one of those cards, so I will save a Quick Strike. I really like this, having both these 2 cards at the start. And Navacatus is nice here, but I do have quite a few 4-mana cards, so I might just shuffle this in as well and see what cards I get here. So here, the cards I really do want to see are the Legion Smiths, the Battle-Worn Wolves. Praetorians is nice, the Evocatuses are nice as well, so I definitely could have chose to keep that. Here, of course, because I never run any 1-mana cards here in this deck, I will just pass. Oh, okay, so he's going to go for early aggression here. He's running Legionnaires, but fortunately, it is not his attacking turn. He might just go into combat directly at the start of next turn to get in this 2 damage, which is the direction he opts to choose. Instead of playing more cards and going in for another attack. This might also mean that he doesn't have another 2-mana card here, but I'm happy with going first here because he doesn't have enough spell mana in order to kill my Legion Smith with a quick strike. So I will drop my Legion Smith here, and hopefully I can drop my Battle-Worn Wolf next turn and give it Challenger before it gets removed. Oh, yep, so it seems like I was right about that. He chose to pass and just go directly into that attack because he didn't have a 2-mana card here to play. I'll end my turn, and I'm going to drop this right away. The reason why is I really do wanted to get that Legion Smith's buff of gaining Challenger, and you'll see it just gained that keyword Challenger here. So we'll have to see now that I do have Battle-Worn Wolves. I'll be able to kill off these Aristocrats 1 turn at a time, or I could try to clear them all off together with my Battle Runes as well. We'll have to see here. Oh, okay, so here is his Challenger card. This is going to be a bit sneaky. He's going to be able to attack that straight into my Legion Smith if he wants to next turn. So, do you think I'm just going to attack like this? And there is a chance that he does try to kill... Yeah, there is a chance that he does try to kill my Battle-Worn Wolf with a spell or something to buff this card's attack. An example would be Bonfire Wrath here. But I think, yeah, he can't play his 3-mana spell card. I still think I'll go for this. Just so that you can read here, Combat Master's effect is whenever an ally unit challenges an enemy unit, it gains +1 health. So, okay, I'm just going to go with this, and we'll see what our opponent here chooses to do. Okay, he decides to pass that. And this is just a little cheeky thing. It's not really that important because my unit won't die, it'll regenerate. And this being down 1 extra health doesn't really make a huge difference here. Here I have that Battle-Worn Wolves effect. Remember, after you play that at the start of every turn, I'd be very careful to select because you cannot reselect these chains, so make sure you left-click the right target. And here, if I really wanted to, I could even pair in a fast spell. But I think I'd rather first see what he chooses to do here. He's probably going to put in his Combat Master and try to kill my Legion Smith. But let's first see what he chooses to do. And then I'm more than happy to use my Quick Strike as a counter rather than make the first move. Oh, he decided to use Call to Equus. Okay, so he's going to try to go very aggressive here. Now, I am starting to get actually quite concerned. This is going to become problematic for me. So here, he's going to go in for a big attack. I think before he buffs these up, because he'll get extra buffs for every soldier unit, I might have to just kill off this Combat Master here. Which I think is what I will have to opt for. And I will still take quite a lot of damage here. 3 and 3. I technically could save myself 1 extra health by dropping in my Zenobia. Will it die to all these units anyways? I'll be taking a little bit of extra damage here if I do that. And the reason why that is because I can only play 1 card at a time. So now he can just go in straight for an attack here, and if he does, not having had this Combat Master means that these cards would have been 1 less attack. And you will notice what happens when we just go in this go into this combat. Okay, so I guess technically speaking, one could see that as the right play, and it's a little bit complex of why that might be the case, but here I do get to block the 1 damage because I was able to play my Zenobia card, even though these would have all had 4s. So this would have been 8 damage. 3 8 damages would have been 12 versus taking 10. So this is kind of the better play, so I'm glad that I did go in that route. I'll select my blockers here. I'm going to choose not to put in my Battle-Worn Wolf. I don't want it to die off to an Equid Knight. I really want to clear off my Aristocrats, and I'm also going to use this Quick Strike so my Legion Smith stays alive for another turn. He doesn't have any mana, so I don't have to worry about that, fortunately. And I will take that 10 damage. I am not in a very, very healthy spot here, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm going to pass here now, and he will end his turn. I'm going to kill off that next Aristocrat. Oh, okay, so it's nice. I have 2 Legion Smiths to work with now. And let's see, I could do a Battle Runes here and just get my cards on the board right now, but I think I'm still going to have them to defend next turn. So what I'm going to choose to do first is I'm going to drop another Legion Smith. And we'll see what our opponent chooses to do here. I have a strong feeling that he's going to play Decimus. It's a very nice card to play on the 5-mana turn here for a Decimus player. We'll see if he does opt to go that route. No, he didn't. Okay, so now I do have this Challenger card, so this is going to be nice. I am going to be able to challenge these units instead. And I might even go in with this one. And maybe he has some buffs, I'm not too sure, but let's see what happens here. Okay, so he chooses to let me take them out. And he's still got that 5 mana. I wonder if he is going to play that Decimus or if he's waiting for something else here. I can't imagine that he's just going to wait that out. Okay, so he really didn't want me to kill off the Gladiator, so he waited for me to finish combat. I could have killed that off using my Battle-Worn Wolf. Very smart and wise of him not to play that card until after the combat was wrapped up. So now he will definitely be using this Gladiator challenge in order to pick off my Legion Smith. Probably, and he's also going to buff his Legion Smith. Okay, wow. Sorry, my apologies, his Gladiator card. So it's a really nice combo that he just played here. He was also able to spend all of his mana. He's going to actually be able to pick off both of my Legion Smiths. But you know what? I'm actually happy still, because one thing that I will be able to do here is at the start of this round, by killing off my Aristocrats, it does summon all 3 of my Palmyrean Slayers, and they will get the Legion Smith buff because they were summoned before he was able to pick them off using his 2 Challenger units right here. I've got a lot of mana to work with this turn as well. Let's see what our opponent chooses to do here. Okay, Vigmar the Snow Warrior. That is a pretty nice play here. All of my units are so weak in attack. Very little for me to be able to do. I would love to be able to use my Skull Throw, but actually he does have 0 health. So you know, one thing I would like to do here is I'm going to use a Skull Throw, pick off the Equid Knight here, as that's the only unit I can kill, and using that additional 4 damage, I'm going to kill off the Snow Warrior. And I think that is what's going to be the best for me here, or else he's going to pick off my units and I won't even be able to kill his Challenger cards. So I will choose to go in this direction, and the opponent should not be able to do anything to counter this simply because he does not have any mana. So taking a look at your opponent's mana really can be helpful for you to decide, like when's the right turn to be able to play certain cards. So not shocked at all about this. He's definitely going to clear off my cards, but I'm also going to be able to kill his cards. So I am at the very least happy about the fact that we do have a clean exchange of cards here. Right, and even though I have 3 mana left, I have nothing I can spend it on, but fortunately at least it will roll over into my spell reserve. Okay, now that I have no more Aristocrats, I will have no choice but to deal damage to myself. It only makes the most sense to deal to the Battle-Worn Wolf. I don't want to kill off my own units here. Here, I could play another card and go in for an attack, but I know even if he just defends with the Decimus, I'm in trouble here. So instead, what I'm going to choose to do is I am going to choose to go in and get in this 5 damage here before the opponent can play a card. And here, maybe I can actually counter something that he plays with my Obliterate or Harpoon Throw. We'll see if he chooses to play the Decimus or a different card. I think it's a little bit short of being able to play a Lemur Spirit. It would have been nice if I could play that this turn as well. But I will have 2 options next turn. I can either play my Architect or my Lemur Spirit. Okay, so he does opt to go with his Decimus. Yeah, I think that is something I was expecting. I think at this point, it probably would be nice for me to be able to have more units on my side. So I might drop a Praetorian. He's probably going to use his Decimus to attack it, but that's okay with me. I can use the Obliterate to kill it in combat as well. So I think that is probably my only really good option here. Either that, or I can choose to spend the mana now, because if I use this, I have a lot of mana left over that kind of becomes a waste. But he can just summon his Decimus over again right after this. It will cost 7 mana, and next turn we'll have 9 mana. So that's a little bit of a tricky decision I have to make here. I don't think saving my mana is really the most important thing, so I will just choose to drop my card instead. And it does seem like our opponent here also doesn't have much to do with this remaining 2 mana. So we will have to say goodbye to, unfortunately, the 3 mana unspent, which is not the most ideal. But that's all right. And here we draw our first Noble's Fortune. Happy to draw that because it will allow me to draw another card as well. And also, I didn't get to speak about this earlier because there was no card to be able to show, but here I can draw a card and deal 1 damage to anything, and that's what this Noble's Fortune card does. And great, I'm going to be able to use this to actually take that spell shield off. I'm going to draw a card, and it allows me to still Harpoon Throw or Obliterate. So I'm super happy I had that Noble's Fortune. If I didn't have that turn, I would have been in a lot of trouble. Here he's definitely going to attack into my Praetorians, I believe. Oh, funny enough, he chose not to. I'm not sure why he would do that. A little bit strange, in my opinion, but he decided not to. I believe maybe it might be because I have so much mana left, he thinks I'm going to buff it and try to kill off his Decimus. So I'm totally fine with that. I might even choose not to block this attack here. I want to squeeze in extra damage next turn, so I will just do a simple block here, and instead I'm going to Obliterate this. And I'm really glad that, in hindsight now, that this is the direction I decide to go. Probably still more important than dropping Lemur Spirit, I think. Definitely not wanting to play an Architect here, I'll kill off my board. I still think this is probably the direction I want to go. Lemur Spirit I can always cast another time. And there we go. And we'll see if the enemy has anything else they want to do with their remaining 3 mana. Okay, it seems like they did not. Okay, so I will use my Battle-Worn Wolf here again on itself. And I'm going to push for some damage now. And this isn't a whole lot of damage, but honestly, it is something. Squeaking in every little bit of damage here really can be the deal breaker for me. So I am going to choose to get that 5 damage in. My apologies, 7 damage here. And we'll see what our opponent decides to do here. Okay, Sea Hunter Drake, yeah. I can deal with that using a Harpoon Throw as long as he doesn't use Arcanine Blast. But also there is a very good chance that he does use one. If he does, it's just out of range of my first strike here. He will be able to pick that unit off. He might choose to summon a Lemur Spirit here instead. Which is I think what I am indeed going to opt for here. And I'm starting to get a little bit concerned because if our opponent has an Architect or Black Swordsman to do board wipes, I'm going to be in a little bit of a pickle here. Okay, so the opponent still does have 3 mana. I would really like to pick off a card. I think he might try to use Call to Equits here. I think that's what I'm expecting here. I will try to see what happens. Another thing is, if he summons his Decimus card, this buffs all of his Challenger units and gives it an extra attack. Okay, yeah, so that's what he went for. He got a Challenger unit there. I can easily pick off my Praetorian, so that was smart of him. Let's see what I might want to do here. Dealing 3 damage to all of my opponent's cards, does it feel nice because it won't be able to survive against a lot of attacks here. And I will be able to do a board wipe. Actually, technically not. It depends on what that Evocatus does. I think I will opt in to go this direction. Simply because it's the one that leaves the least amount of counterplay, using a Harpoon Throw here on that unit, though it does feel really nice. If he counters it with an Arcanine Blast, it's going to be a big a tempo swing that I'll lose. So let's see if my opponent has an answer to this. And I also have an Arcanine Blast here for that additional 3 mana. Let's see what our opponent chooses to do here. Okay, he's going to buff the card. So here I can choose before the buff does take place if I want to use my Arcanine Blast. And that might be actually most ideal for me to use it right now rather than waiting in combat. He probably will have another counter spell for this, but I still think this might be the better option for me is to use this. So I probably will use this on my Lemur. It's the least important card, and I will try to kill off this Sea Hunter Drake. And we'll see if our opponent has another counter to this with his remaining 6 mana. It's a really close match. We're both at 16 health. Okay, yeah, I was expecting that. It was about time we would see an Adrenaline Rush come out. So he is choosing to buff his card so that it won't die, and it also gain this buff since it survives the Arcanine Blast. So if we do the math here, it has 3 health. It'll gain 2 here, so it'll have 5. It'll take 4 damage, so it'll be left with 1, and then it'll gain an extra health here, so it will become a 2 health unit. And this is just temporary attack. You know, he can really run this into anything. He's probably going to want to run into my Black Swordsman here, which, oh, actually, he's going to run into my Lemur Spirit. Oh, actually, that's, darn. That's actually a little bit unfortunate. And the reason why he's doing this is because he 100% has another spell card. If he didn't, he would not have run his cards into me in this kind of fashion. So, shucks, that is going to be a little bit painful. Yeah, okay, of course. And then, he's going to regenerate his health back to full as well after combat. So very smart play on my opponent's side. Very, very, very smart play. I'm going to be a little bit in a tricky spot now because even if I use Architect, I can't kill off all of his units. We'll see. What might I want to go for here? I think I might try to go for something like this and see if he'll actually block this card or not. Because it just doesn't really make sense to play an Architect here. I am clearing my opponent's cards, but I'm also killing off my own units. I think I would rather wait to see what my opponent's going to play first. It really would have been nice had I drawn my Legatuses. It would have been much, much nicer. But it's not like I would have had a counter spell if my opponent has an Obliterate or Harpoon Throws, which he probably will try to save for my Legatus. But he's also down to 3 cards, so we really are really keeping things neck and neck here. Oh wow, he decides to take that 6 damage unless he's going to use a spell card here. Ooh, wow. He decided to take 6 damage instead of block it with his Evocatus. Very curious if he's going to end up regretting that decision or not. Let's see what he chooses to do here. He might try to use the board wipe. Okay, he's going to buff his card. I'm happy with that because now it becomes a target for Harpoon Throw. You know what? I'll let you do that even though I technically could kill off the unit right now. Or actually, would I want to kill off the unit right now? He only has 4 mana left. That actually might be the better play for me, is just kill it off right now versus giving him an opportunity to counter my Harpoon Throw. Even though technically speaking he can't. 6 mana, both of them are 6. I won't have room to play anything else. I've attacked this turn, so it's my opponent's turn to attack next. I deal 4 damage using Skull Throw, and I have 4 damage here I'm holding on to that I can do with Architect. That will leave him with 2 health. Oh, this is really tricky. I think I'd rather save my Harpoon Throws for his Legatus. I think he's gonna have a Legatus, so I'm just gonna choose to go here and actually do this play before it gets buffed up. And we'll see, maybe he does have a counter. If he's got a counter here, oh, it's gonna really suck. But oh, fantastic, he doesn't. So my unit still stays alive. I got to deal that 4 damage. I'm gonna have to pass here. Okay, he plays up Praetorians. All right, fortunately, he does not have Challenger, so I don't have to give up my Black Swordsman here if he does attack next turn. And I can kill it off with an Architect as well. He's gonna go for an attack. I am more than happy. But you know what, I may as well, actually, no, because even if I use Architect, at least I'm not giving him the extra Noble's Fortune, and I'm just taking 3 extra damage. I think I would rather do that. So I'll take the damage here. I'm okay with sacrificing that. The other thing I might do is I might try to bluff out. I might try to bluff out here the opponent from playing a board wipe card. If he plays an Architect, he's lowering his own health, but he might feel like he has no choice but to do so here. So I'm crossing my finger that that's what he's going to try to play here. Let's see. Ah, okay, he uses a Skull Throw instead. Ah, sneaky, sneaky. Okay. Ah, that's very smart of him. Very, very smart of him. I can still squeak in a little bit of damage here. I still squeak in 2 damage next turn. Unless he has anything else he can play here. And that could actually be just what I need to give me the win. So I may as well play another unit here. I just need to start pushing damage more than anything. Ah, and I get a Noble's Fortune as well. So I'm gonna go in with this attack here. I just need to squeak that damage in because I have lethal in my hand. It will take a few turns to get there, but I do have lethal. Oh, actually I have lethal this turn. What am I saying? This is only 9 mana, so I do have lethal. I think that is a good game. So I will start off with this because who knows what I'm gonna draw. It always, anytime you have a drawing card, it's better to play first. Okay, I get my Legatus. This would have been a very helpful card earlier on, but he probably does have an Obliterate. Okay, Avarice, that is fine by me. And we can probably call GG in good game here. Fortunately, I just had enough direct damage cards, direct damage dealing cards to close off that victory. And just like that, you know, we've wrapped up a Zenobia game. I hope you were able to follow along. There were a lot of different mechanics in that matchup, and that's usually how these Zenobia matches goes. I'd say Zenobia is probably at the top of the hardest deck to learn how to play, but when you can play it right, when you can time which cards to play at what on what turn or based on how your opponent's playing, it'll really give you a lot more success with this deck. So I hope that helps you out, and I hope you'll have success with a Zenobia deck just as well as I did during this match.